So, hi, Anand. Welcome. Thank you for your time. I hope you're
Good
doing
morning,
well.
everyone, and hi, Nishal and the team. And I can see a lot of people there. So Juhi and Sheikh, Samir, Samreen Sheikh, and
Yeah.
yourself. So great to meet you. And finally, we're meeting. Happy for it.
Yes, thank you. I always ask you, but I mean, we had a discussion about it. But if you could just share a little bit about your journey so far, about your
Mm.
experience, a little bit of just a glimpse for the audience, that would be really lovely because that will just give us an idea about where
Yeah.
you've come from and everything else. Yeah.
So I'm Anand, chartered accountant from India and a CPA from US. Uh, I've got about 3 decades of experience in Middle East for the last how many years? To be precise, 27, and in Dubai for last 20 years, running into my 21st. Uh, I've always worked in corporates, and when I say corporates, that to the niche area of family groups. And I take pride in a couple of things as we go forward in this journey. Uh, I've seen in UAE specifically, I've seen the 2008 financial meltdown. Then I saw the 2020 COVID, and now these uncertain times currently. And I've also take pride in the fact that I have worked for diversified business verticals. So whether it is real estate, construction, contracting, retail, trading, distribution, manufacturing, FMCG, stock market, facilities management. So initial, give me a business, I will handle.
You're
And that's how I always define myself. Give me business, I will. I mean, to be honest, I'm not a sales guy, but when I say I drive the business, is more on the financial and the commercial part to take our business from one phase to another within UAE and international market. Apart from my core professional work, I'm also a passionate speaker, global speaker, so to say. And I keep giving CFO talks, CFO interviews, a solo speaker, a panel speaker. And I also write reasonably lot at the professional platforms. And yeah, that's all about me to start with.
Yeah, you've spoken about the 2008 meltdown, 2020 COVID, etc. So you've seen finance evolve across decades, industries and geographies. So how has the role of the CFO fundamentally changed over the last 10 years and more sharply over the last 5?
Yeah, that's something very interesting for you to ask me this question. So let me take you when I became the CFO for the first time in 2011. I probably felt that I deserved it much earlier, as we always believe that things should have come to me. And once I became the CFO, I started feeling that, I know everything. I know everything. Owners should listen to me. After all, I'm the CFO. And I made a couple of basic mistakes in my initial part. And I realized that that's not how you grow in CFO's role. And then over a span of time, I evolved. So for me, there are two aspects when I say the role of the CFO. One, as me as a professional. And second, what has happened to the role itself. So let me go on the second part first. So till you can say 8 years back, or maximum 10 years back, the role of the CFO was okay, maintain the books of accounts, prepare the P&L, maintain the cash flow, get the audits done, be compliant. And nothing wrong in that. Nothing wrong in that. Because probably the dynamics were different. The business was not that complicated, right? Challenges were there, but that's how the CFO role was defined. Then over the last decade, things started changing. A lot of new initiatives started coming on the digital transformation, the business itself. A lot of new ideas started coming up. People also became hungry to be more successful, so to say. And then came 2020, COVID. And for me, that's the time when the role changed. That's the time I use the word business CFO, which I strongly believe. So people often ask me, what is this business CFO? I mean, is it like just another term? You find strategic CFO, business CFO, transformational CFO, traditional CFO. What is this? So here's what I have been saying about business CFO. And essentially, it means that you go deep dive into the business nuances of every business vertical to ensure that the business are cash flow surplus. Not only cash flow surplus, you also mitigate the risks and take the business from one phase to another. Let me reiterate. A business CFO is one who goes deep dive into the business nuances on the financial and the commercial part to achieve broadly three objectives. First, to ensure that the business is cash flow surplus, profitable. Two, to mitigate, manage, assess risks. And third, obviously, the normal part, compliance, controls. And in the process, the net outcome is you take the business from one phase to another. So let's say if you're in survival mode, you take it to the next phase. If you're in growth phase, you take it to the accelerated phase, and then you consolidate. But here is what the beauty is. It's not for one business. It's maybe manufacturing, retail. So I've handled in my career businesses as many as 9, 10, even more, as diversified from real estate to stock market to manufacturing. So what does it really mean on the ground? As a business CFO, you're supposed to know the nuances of each of these businesses. But here is what people often confuse. Does it mean that you should know, like let's say in a manufacturing company, am I supposed to know each and everything of the shop floor? No, not necessarily. We need to know what is relevant from the financial and the commercial aspect. So let's say if you are into interior fit out business, just to give an example, I'm not really required to know what goes into the assembly section, okay, or in the polishing section, or in the veneering section. But what I need to know is how is the work in progress valued on the business front, okay? How the labor hours are assessed. Now, can you appreciate the difference here? You are into business on the commercial front, but you are taking a back step. You're not a salesman still, not a salesman, but you are responsible for the three basic things. And unfortunately, and I got to accept that, we as CFOs, most of us are not trained to be like that. Because as I said, the earlier job description was, okay, go ahead, the ones which I mentioned you. This changed job description expects you to wear a different hat, willingness to go to other departments, understand from them. So that requires a paradigm mind shift change. CFO needs to undergo a paradigm mindset shift. And there are other aspects also of business CFO, but I will make you digest what I have said. And then as we go forward, I will keep you pumping in about the various aspects of the business CFO, which is also an ability to influence the soft stakeholders and the soft skills.
Yeah. All right, we will cover that as well. Just one quick question, because you mentioned nuance. What is just a quick overview as to what you're saying, that the traditional CFO doesn't do what exactly when you're saying what a business CFO does? I mean, you're saying this is not how they approach things?
Yeah. Traditional, I'll give an example. Let's say I give an example of a manufacturing company. Right?
Yeah.
So now let me give you an example for the retail trading distribution, typical business model, which you can be a B2B or a B2C business model. Now, unless you appreciate a difference as a CFO, what entails into a B2B and what entails into a B2C, you might see it's the same. It is not. It is not the same. It's not the same. For example, a B2C, probably you directly approach the customers. So how do you manage the showrooms? If you're in a medical pharmacy, you directly sell it to the various hospitals. If it is B2B, it might change. So the difference, when I say nuances, one of the examples I gave you, or let's say another example. If you're in a real estate business, where you are also a contractor.
Hmm.
Now, you can close your books and say, look, my project is making money or not. But unless you go to the site and appreciate the difference between various type of works, the civil works, the MEP works, the uh, other type of works which is happening at the site. Now, again, here is the catch. When I say MEP works, I'm not expecting the CFO to understand the technical aspects of MEP works to the extent one can make an effort. So you always have to make a trade-off between what sort of time you spend to understand the business nuances and take back. Let's say you have a serious cash crunch. If you go and talk to the sales team and say what's happening with the collections, okay, I'm available to talk to your clients, suggest them differential pricing strategies, go and even get involved in the pricing tool. So these sort of roles, when I say business nuances, for the starting point is to understand the business itself, the willingness to understand the business, which, as I said, yes, people are understanding that. So CFOs do realize this, but just to answer you, in the earlier part, this was not happening.
Interesting. So let's step inside the boardroom. So I just want to understand, like, what are your secrets in managing the board and the ownership that you can share with other CFOs?
Right. This is something which I've always been asked, uh, probably because I believe that all what I've said so far is actually doesn't really mean that you will be a successful CFO. And I repeat again, I might sound uh, paranoid when I say so, but that's the fact. Simply understanding the business nuances, uh, something which I mentioned, does not necessarily mean that you're a successful CFO. And let's face it, as a business CFO, you're not the owner, you are an employee. That's a reality. So, and the buy-in of the owners are very important. Buy-in from the owners is very important. Whether you call it owners, you call it board, that might differ, but the idea is this. Now, the thing is, at times we CFOs, we are pretty stubborn, we're pretty adamant. It's my way, it's or highway, like that. And to an extent, we also discount the owners. I don't want to use the word disrespect, we discount because we feel that, look, we are the qualifieds, we understand finance, we understand accounting, we know what his business model is. And here is what we forget. The owners have collected brick by brick, brick by brick to get the business where they are, right? So they need to be given that respect. They need to be given that recognition. They need to be given that value. Now, this is easier said than done because, as I said, the CFO believes he knows everything. So you have a situation where, and it's very interesting if you really look at, you have a situation where the CFO needs a buyout or the buy-in from all these stakeholders. And somewhere down the line, he believes that he knows everything. Now, this bridge, which is required to manage the shareholders, needs a lot of mindset change, a lot of paradigm shift in the mindset. So how do you achieve it? First of all, there's no room for any ego space. Because, in the earlier part, when I spoke about, I said I made mistakes or I evolved myself. I used to feel that, look, for me, it's important to give my views, to communicate, to make my presence for the early days of my CFO. But I realized over a span of time, you are valued more when you give solutions which can be executed on ground. And I repeat again, as a business CFO, we give solutions which can be executed on ground. Doesn't matter how much I know, doesn't matter how much you know. Yeah. And for that, the buy-in from the owners is required. And when you club everything together, there's no room for ego space. If you go in that mindset, and that's where I brought the concept of besides the wins. So if you're a CFO who looks at a win as a success, you're more happy. So first, there's no room for ego space. Second, again, if you're talking to the owners, speak in the language in which they understand. No point of using a technical limbo jargon, show them the trial balance. Make simple life simple so that they understand what you're saying. Others, what will happen is you will keep giving them solutions they don't understand. And again, don't blame them for it. They are the one who has created that empire. So if they want a thing in a particular way, have the patience. Go for it. This being the third quality. Patience. When I say patience means good listener, and I keep saying God has given us 2 years and 1 month. And I repeat again, God has given us 2 years and 1 month for a purpose. You got to listen more and speak less. Again, easier said than done. But if you have the patience and you have a willingness to listen, so you listen to them. Listen to them carefully. Listen to them with intent. The problem is, people do listen, but they listen to react. That's the problem. I repeat again. People listen, but they listen to react. But when you listen to understand, you may or may not react. Big difference. So I keep saying that when you say you're a good listener, you listen to understand what the owners are saying. They are right, they're wrong, that's a secondary issue. Understand them what they're saying first. Not listen to react. So when you listen to understand, you also get time to react. But when you listen to react, you don't have time to think through. It's a very subtle difference, but that is how it is. So when you have patience, you listen. And then the last quality, which is persistence, perseverance. Why I say so is now, for example, in one of these tough times, we were talking about negotiating the bank liabilities with one of the banks. So in UAE, and then so one of the owners, when I went through, he said, "Look, we have never taken any bank deferment liabilities. I don't want to go for it." Now, I heard him. I said, "Yeah." So I said, "Yeah, you're right." I went back, worked for a financial proposal, explain him why it is required. So in a way, you're trying to change their mindset also. And all these qualities which I mentioned, listen more, patience, come with a solution. There's no point of doing everything and you can't come with a solution. Come with an executable solution. So in the case that I'm mentioning, I remember it took me almost 30 to 45 days. I spoke to bankers, I discussed with them, and then arrive at a solution which could be presented to the bank. So which means in the process, when you manage the ownership, you also deal with the external stakeholders, which could be a banker, client, supplier, lawyer, anyone. Also, equally, you also deal with your internal stakeholders, which could be people from sales, production, marketing. So the idea is to give the ownership an executable solution which they can understand. That's very crucial. Therefore, all these 4-5 points which I said are must. And let me just react it so that it gets to everyone. Speak in the language in which they understand. Give them the recognition which they deserve. Value them. No room for ego space. Go for decisive wins. Have patience. Listen more. Listen with intent not to react. Listen with intent to understand. And finally, deal with stakeholders, external stakeholders, and then arrive at an executable solution. In the process, if you have to change yourself. See, the problem, with us, as I keep saying, sometimes we are very stubborn. No, this is what it is. My example which I gave you, I also changed myself. So that once the owners realize, look, Anand is an open-minded professional, he will factor what we're saying, he will come up with a solution. Maybe I started with the solution A, I might have ended with the solution B minus or C plus. That's how it is. I hope I've not confused you.
No, I'm absolutely clear.
Shareholders.
I do have a follow-up question on that. So you've said that have an executable solution. Has there been a situation where that hasn't been the case, where you've had that experience the first time you kind of went about and what you presented was not something that was executed? I mean, is there some scenario like that as well? Or
Yeah, that might happen with the owners. Let's say, let's say in the current time, let's talk of these times. Most of the companies will say, look, this is a problem. Go ahead, bring down the payroll. Same thing happened at the time of COVID also. Any financial crisis, the first thing is bring down the payroll. Why that happens is because easy. First of all, you can headcount people, take an action, effective immediately. So when in one of my companies, when I gave a solution like this, I did not, I did talk about the payroll reduction, but not with that intensity. Was that an executable solution? For me, yes, it was. Did the board buy it? No, did not. They did not. Because as I mentioned, in any financial crisis, the cash becomes a problem. Cash flow is a problem. So the owner's first thing, how to manage the cash flow. And the first thing is bring down the payroll. So answer to you, yes, I did go with an executable solution. Board didn't approve it. It took me a couple of meetings, couple of to and fro to make them understand. And I also a little bit shifted my position too. So yes, answer to you, most of the time the CFOs will go with an executable solution. But some solutions you may need to buy the owner's approval. And that's where the solution, though it looks executable on ground, is exactly not a solution to be executed on ground.
okay, all right. So I just want to take a turn because you've had an extensive experience with working with family-owned businesses, right? So what makes them uniquely challenging, and where do they have an edge?
So I'll tell you, typically, traditionally, to an extent even now, people say, look, today, today's zeros become tomorrow's heroes, and tomorrow's heroes become next day's zeros. It happens, all happens. Obviously, families reward you for what you deliver to them. They're not interested beyond stage in your pep talk or your too many presentations. Interested. What is the solution? Are you helping them? So in that process, sometimes structures are not there, or structures are not followed the way it could have been. So when I say I wrote an article a couple of times, a couple of months back, one of my social media article, I said, family groups, is it resilient, challenging, innovative, or else? And I put a question mark there. Then I said, look, it is if you're working for a family groups, you got to be resilient because it's an unstructured element. The other challenge with the family groups is, what is family group? It's not a one-man show. You may have husband, wife, children. You may have owner, brothers, his sisters, their sons. Or you may have 4 brothers. Fifth brother is not involved. Sixth brother is partially involved. There are some families involved. Now, when you have this sort of family groups, and mind you, when I'm saying about family groups, essentially I'm looking for those groups. Some of them may be listed, some of them may not be listed. Okay. So when you have these sort of situations, you are also managing the individual owners, and it's very difficult to bring all of them to a common ground. So that's a challenge. The second is, every owner also has his own ideas, and you may find it, you may have to manage that also. So you can't bring consensus, that's a challenge. Plus, everyone has his own ideas also. The other thing is family disputes. Sooner or later, the family groups do engage in disputes. And as a CFO, especially for a group CFO like me, you're supposed to find a solution. That means you know there's a dispute. You know there's a dispute. However, you have to find a way out. You have to find a way out. And what works, again, if the family owners believe that Anand is looking for a decisive win and solutions to help them, they will listen to you. And it takes time to build that confidence. Initially, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And those uh, 5 or 6 attributes that I mentioned to you in managing the secrets to building the ownership are required. So you have unstructured family groups, structured family groups, managing various family owners, disputes. But here's the most important thing. Most of the family groups are very ambitious, I have seen. The urge to grow is very fast. The urge to grow is very fast. Can you keep pace with that? And in the quest to grow faster, as I initially said, as a business CFO, you have also to mitigate risk and the growth. These are two uh, opposite North Pole: risk, growth. Still, you have to manage it. So look at the situation. The family groups are typically far more growth oriented, aggressive, within which you have to be an odd man out and say, look, I think this is the risk. It's not easy. In 2024, if you look at the things are far different because people had just come out of the COVID. 24, I'm talking about. Okay, people started coming out in 2023, but in 2024, literally out, there was a huge urge in everyone to grow, to move very fast, to move very quick. Strong urge to grow. Literally, I'm playing a match like a T20, honestly. Now, here is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to sound like a madman too, and yet don't sound negative. Because if you keep telling them nothing will happen, if you keep telling them this, no, if we do this thing, this will happen. And if you keep telling them, basically communicating them, no, don't go for growth, because this will happen, that will happen, then they will snub you as someone who's not interested in growth. So mind you, the 3 basic key action points, I call it the preamble for a CFO: growth, risk management. Taking the business from one phase to another is very challenging when you have a family group like this. But then people often ask me, why do you want, what is my view? And I said, look, I find it very exciting. Plus, you're always on toes. You're always on toes. There's nothing like anything can happen anytime.
But that kind of ambition and growth, are you saying is not typical in, let's say, an enterprise, which is like a non-family business enterprise?
I didn't get you.
So, I mean, are you saying that what you mentioned right now, that family businesses are very ambitious, they're going to grow faster? You're saying that's not the typical case in an enterprise?
I mean, frankly, I've not worked on non-family groups. I really can't
All right.
comment on that.
So you can't comment. All right.
What I've heard from people is that, like a multinational, they're far more structured. Okay? I'm not saying they don't want growth. There's little bit procedures, paths. Again, don't misunderstand. Family groups also have procedures. All I'm saying is the vibes. Is the vibes. When I say vibes, it means it comes from the owners. The decision, the directions eventually come from them. That is why this is happening. Having said that, family groups are equally becoming very professional. But I won't be in the position to comment because I've only worked for family groups. Well, right or wrong, I don't know, but that's how it is. Yeah.
So let's talk about, like you spoke about, the whole getting out of COVID and this uncertain period that we have recently seen and what's going on right. So you've managed businesses through tight liquidity and uncertain environments, sure. So what is your approach to ensuring cash flow? And you've touched upon it earlier, talking about cash flow, but what is your approach to ensuring cash flow stability in such situations?
Okay, so let's get back to COVID. When COVID happened, obviously it was like a catastrophe. No one knew this. And suddenly the very meaning of risk got changed. Earlier, what was the risk before COVID? Okay, should I go for this expansion? Okay, no. How much time it will take? 1 year. When will the ROI start? Okay. What is my payback period? Fine. Can I afford my cash flow? Okay. That means you are consciously going for a expansion, mergers, acquisition, looking at all the financial benchmarks. And you go for it because you feel it is a success or it will be a success. That is pre-COVID. COVID changed the whole definition. The risk was, can you manage a week? Can you manage a quarter? No visibility beyond that. And especially with their businesses which were having loan commitments, the it's a very different ballgame altogether. And no one then thinks about the expansions in those terms. So there, and then the other thing which happens invariably when these sort of catastrophe happens is the panic reaction. Most of the owners had not seen COVID. So when current uncertainty has happened, the owners to some extent are prepared because they've seen the COVID times. But in COVID, it was most of the people has not seen it. So there was immediate knee-jerk, absolutely knee-jerk from the owner's perspective. For example, the questions like, okay, what are my immediate payables in the market? What are my immediate receivables in the market? What happens if the business shuts down? Am I sufficiently covered or not? Am I getting exposed? Is the business exposed? Means the whole thought process changes how to survive. Survival is the buzzword. And so when the owners panic, CFO is the doctor. I repeat, CFO is the doctor, business CFO. And if he also panics, you had it. My friend, you had it. So in these situations, when to maintain a cool, CFOs are supposed to communicate the bad news. They are the only one. They are the only most unpopular people in any organization. And I keep saying, the more unpopular CFO you are, the better you are. An owner who has a popular CFO who only gives him good news is a sure shot for disaster. So if you see in COVID times, those CFOs who could stand, who could communicate, who had the courage and the conviction to disagree with the owners, finally were helpful for the business and the owners. And they were rewarded. So answer to you, the dynamics of managing cash flow in these situations is completely different for various reasons. Survival, owners thinking changing, panic reactions, knee-jerk reactions. Sometimes you are trying, things are not working. Surely things can go work less also. But what essentially works for the CFO is using all your experience and expertise. Look for short victories. In challenging times like this or the COVID time, don't think of, okay, what is going to happen after 10 months? Look for short victories. Achieve it, then move towards it. Okay, that is how I think is the best way to do this.
Does a short victory look like? I mean, what do you mean by that exactly?
For example, in the tricky times, this challenging time, there's no point of having a cash flow forecast for the next 5 months. Wasting time on that. First, see, are you covered basically for a month? And I'm not sounding negative, especially when you're handling 7 businesses, 10 businesses. And to look at every business, see, as per the law of the land, which are the commitments which you got to honor anyway. Bank commitments, compliant payments, make a list, payroll, whatever, as per the law of the land. Which are your expected receivables? So answer to you, when I say short-term victories, is no point of making too much a horizon. Short-term victories in tackling problems. For example, you want to bring your cost down. You achieve something, take a breath, go for the next step. So there is a thin line of being too aggressive and laid back. You need to find a midway solution. And remember, that's where it becomes very challenging because the family owners expect the things to happen soon. Either they have not seen these times or they are panicking. So you have a couple of things in your hand. First, cool them down. Second, communicate the bad news in the way you should. If you sound things are really bad, you're further panicking them. And then go for the short victories. A few of them which I mentioned to you. For example, let's say there's a receivable and the guy is not paying. CFO takes the leadership, goes out, finds a solution, gets some money for the company. Short victory. Or else go to the bank, negotiate. Or else, if need be, get a supplier hasn't shipped the goods for you because you haven't paid him. Find a solution. So the point I'm saying is then the role of the CFO is beyond, he has to interfere everywhere. And the other thing which I've seen is, and that's something which many organizations I have seen, their basic financial books are not ready. So no one knows what exactly is the situation of the company, financial, the P&L, the control, and the compliance. These equally become so important. Something which are taken for granted. So this is how, again, there's no fixed prescription. I can't give you a medical prescription saying take two
Absolutely. Yeah.
antibiotics, but you need to be on the toes. Yeah.
All right, that's interesting. So you've spoken about a crisis scenario, which is like an external scenario like COVID happening. And what about turnarounds where you've the company is suffering? And what are the few things you look at when a business is under stress?
I think, yeah, I've been involved in at least, I mean, three to four places in turnaround, and one place I failed also.
Wow, talk
So,
about that. I would love to hear just to get some
so,
perspective and probably lessons from that.
yeah, so I keep saying, if you only seen the successful times, you are a good professional, no doubt. But if you failed also,
Hmm.
you're the right person because you know where things can go wrong, right? So I'll take you where things went wrong, since you asked where things went wrong. So, well, the business was into manufacturing, and we were supplying in materials and installation, all those things were happening. But again, a family group, I will only work for family group, so that's something which is a given fact. So the owners were very ambitious, things were going fine. So they keep going for expansion locally, internationally. But the financial books were not ready. Yeah. No one knew what the P&L was. But since the things were going fine, things went fine. And the finance department was not competent and not who could stand up to the owners and give them what he feels is right. It's more like a yes man team. Owners liked it. Then they hired me. So when I entered, I realized there was no P&L for almost a year. No one knew what the financial position was. It took me some time to bring things under control. There's so many checks were issued in the market without knowing how we want to honor it. So from my end, I did mention whatever I could, make the changes in the pricing. Pricing was made based on the historical assumptions. What was valid maybe a year ago, things have changed since then. Pricing was not correct, costs were high, and we were spending money and not managing the banks properly. So when I took it over, things were pretty bad. We tried, but things somewhat didn't work, and the net conclusion was eventually it didn't work. Just didn't work. So did I not try enough? I mean, to be fair, I also hold myself responsible. One of the jobs where I would say I failed as a CFO, and I accept. But if you ask me, where did I fail? Well, I failed. I tried convincing the owners. Probably could not. Learn lessons from them. Maybe things were pretty bad. And I did some course corrections post that. Yeah.
So majorly it was not, you were not able to convince the owners of what the right path was. Is that what it is?
I mean, I would say that, as I said, I own the responsibility. I mean, I cannot say that as a CFO. I mean, when you are successful, if you take the credit, let's be realistic. The buck stops with the CFO. So it would be wrong for me to say that. Look, I probably could have done differently when I look back. But these were the example which I'm referring is my initial part of my career of the CFO. Initial part, but that's something which always gives me the indication. And one example which happened post that was always an example that look, I handled that worst situation. I handled that. Okay, I might not be 100% successful, but I've been through that. So if I've been through that, I will handle any situation. Sometimes failure makes you strong. That makes you feel that look, yeah, you can do it.
Right. So anything that you could share from your successes in the turnaround? In turnarounds you've kind of handled? Any lessons on anything? So because the question that I asked you was what are the kind of, what are the few things you look at?
Well, I mean, I was engaged in a couple of places in a cost control drive. I keep myself saying turnaround specialist. So when I say this was a failure, there were other 3 success stories also in turnaround the company, literally from the brink, Again, the buy-in from the ownership was required. You need to come with the proper financial strategies, look at the P&L, look at every item, uh, reach out to people. You can't remain in your place and then give instructions. Yeah. Show that you're a team player. Listen to them. Keep monitoring. Keep monitoring. So that's one thing which I feel good about. In one of the cases in one of our organizations, our so every country grades your company. Central bank grades you. That's how the grading works. So in one of my companies, we were downgraded by central bank of that particular country because we had liabilities and there were some challenges in that. That was a big challenge to make our account back and bring back the company, literally remove the downgrading account. So that was something which when I look back, I really feel very good about. And the third thing which I feel I'm pretty good at running the businesses, as I said initially, whether it is a startup business or is it a different type of businesses, I run them very well. So these are three, four things I'm good about. And on a soft skills side, I do feel that people who have worked with me, I'm happy to say that I've mentored them, and I keep getting calls saying what they learned from me. Now you feel good, as simple as that. You just feel good about it. So I think I'm a good team leader. I think I'm a good team leader. That's what my team who has been working with that keeps telling me.
All right. So you've kind of answered this, but I'll still ask you probably if you have anything else to say. In today's environment, what matters more for a CFO? Is it technical expertise, people, and influence skills? And you've kind of answered it, but I just still want to know: is there something else that you would think of?
All are important, but someone has to ask me. And again, I might sound controversial. So be it. I wrote something on this topic in one of my blogs, but I believe it's technical expertise, and I tell you why. Especially when you're handling different businesses, because when you're having a technical expertise, you're confident. You know the subject matter. Knowledge helps. Experience helps. Technical skills helps. Because then you can relate to what you're saying. It's like this. Someone tells what you need to be a good opener. I would say I'm a great Gavaskar, technically very sound, right? So therefore, technical skills, I still feel the challenging times are most important because that makes you people respect you. Now you can't demand respect. You need to earn respect. You earn respect when you give executable solutions on ground, and in which case, one of the very important criteria for you to give executable solution is technical expertise. The example which I gave you on the bank liabilities, if I was not aware how the banks are going to function technically, I wouldn't have been able to find a solution. Or the few success stories that I mentioned to you, if I was not aware technically on various aspects of pricing or the cost, I wouldn't have been able to get through. Having said that, soft skills, people management is equally important because you can't fix everything all alone. You just can't do that. So you need to be a team leader. You need to work with people. But if you're asking me, making me an uncomfortable question of which is better, if that's a question to me, I would definitely say I will give technical expertise maybe 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10, and people management 6.5. Not way behind. Yeah, 6.5.
But you will grade technical expertise higher than the...
For reasons I mentioned to you. Especially when you have a diversified business verticals and this position and the way things are happening currently. For these reasons, I would say it's important. And basically, command respect and the trust of your people.
What about how about some practical steps? You spoke about being a business CFO. There are aspiring finance professionals who want to grow while watching this, for example, and saying that, okay, it's all good to be, you're saying what a business CFO does, but how do I kind of go about it? What would you say? What would you recommend to somebody who's like an aspiring, leader, finance leader?
First, be on the learning path. Be on the learning path always. There's never a stage when you say, I've learned everything. Second, understand the process. as they say, there's a method to the madness. There is a method to the madness. You need to understand it. Unless you understand how an accountant prepares a voucher and releases the payment, you won't be in a position to find his mistakes and suggest solutions to him. So you need to dirty your hands. That's point 2. Point 3, go into detail, understand the business. Draw a line. Go into the nuances of the business to the extent it can help into your, as a business here, as a financial and the commercial part. Always be a solution-oriented person. And I keep repeating, I must have said this sentence at least 10 times. Solutions to be executed on ground. And people are tired hearing this sentence from me. But I said that's what it is all about. Solutions which you can execute on ground in the context of the situation. Because what works in company A in a situation may not work for company B in the same situation. May or may not. So executable solution, always look at that. Be ready for a change. Be ready for a change. Change is the only thing. I think COVID taught us change is the only thing. Those who don't change changes them. Be ready for a change. On a flip side, take things easy. Take things easy. Let's not be too serious. I keep saying successful business CFOs are those who think from head and heart, both. Not only from head. Heart is equally important. We CFOs also have hearts. And I repeat, we CFOs also have heart. And at times, solutions do come from heart. So yes, head and heart, both. These are all coming from what I've seen, what have evolved over time. You won't find in the textbook, but it's something that has worked for me. And well, people can take, people can leave it.
You often talk about, you've mentioned it currently as well, about decisive wins, right? So what does that mean, and how should leaders think about it in real business scenarios?
Yeah. See, decisive wins is something you arrived. It's conclusive. It is there. You don't have to explain. It's black and white. It's like this. Okay, to give you an example, and I keep giving cricket examples, something which I love so much. In a T20 match, you defeat a team by 10 wickets. Decisive win, nothing. Or someone hit centuries, he has arrived. Now, it's easy to say that, and why decisive wins are required? First, establish yourself. That's the only way you can prove yourself. Second, it makes you more solution-oriented. It makes you more solution-oriented. And you realize that the happiness which you get having decisive wins, you forget about your ego space because you know that satisfaction is too much. The problem is, it's easier said than done. People start celebrating too quickly and they feel that's a decisive win. So don't celebrate too early. See, all checklists have been done, all the checkpoints have been done. Then say that you achieved decisive win. Many times you declare an early victory and then you have to eat humble pie. Right? Work hard. No compromise to the work hard. Look for solutions all the time. And be open for learning. And above all, if you make a mistake, learn. And I keep saying, learn, unlearn, relearn, learn. Again, learn, unlearn, relearn, learn. But the people, they often ask me that they say what you're saying about decisive win is like a dogmatic concept because how can you execute this on ground? I say, no, it's not dogmatic. See, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about they. It's about the process to get a win. I repeat, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about them. It's about the process. If you really believe in this mindset, not because I'm saying, I'm sure they're looking for decisive wins, where winning is more important through a process rather than the individuals. Well, not easy. Again, I'm saying it's not easy because then you are telling people, forget about your egos, look at a solution. And people, we are human beings, we're not robots. People have their own egos, their own issues. It takes time. It takes time. But it is achievable. So I won't use the word, say 5 years ago, no, I was a far different professional. But for some years, I've started believing that these decisive wins are possible.
What about, so this is I think we are almost out of time, but so looking ahead over the next 3 to 5 years, what do you believe will define the next generation of CFOs?
In terms of their requirement?
Overall, yeah.
Expectation?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Expectation, I think the same. I don't think it's changed, right? People will be expected to be more business focused. Technology is coming, so they've got to be tax savvy. Maybe I'm 55, so people of that coming generation, the quickly they will be more taxing, even soon also. The technology will take a lot of work, teamwork. So you got to be open for building new skill sets required. You can't keep having a crowning glory on what you did 5 years back. You need to prove yourself every day. Very important. The moment you feel that, look, I've done everything now. No, you need to be ready to prove yourself in every day. And I think that needs a mindset change. So yes, some of the things which I explained to you will continue. There is a digital transformation avalanche, as I can see. You need to be more tax savvy. You need to learn new skills and make your day count every day. When you get up, I think the best way to see what best I can do today, which means what? Compete with yourself. I repeat, compete with yourself. Am I doing better than what I was yesterday? And if not, am I willing to make that improvement? Not for someone else, for myself. I think people who have this vision, I think in the coming years, definitely, I believe they will be far more successful. And the beauty is, I keep telling these people who are in the mid 25 or 30s, when they discuss something with me, I keep telling them this thing. I gave some mentoring sessions last year. I said, look, what I'm telling you now in the last couple of minutes, I said the same thing to them. I said, look, this is not a pep talk. If you can imbibe what I'm saying and execute and believe in it, not because I'm saying so, you have 125 years. You have saved 25 years. And I said, it is not textbook. But the challenge is, people take time to understand this, and I don't blame them. Something you learn from experience only. But those who can do it, that's how they are the leaders. They save years then. Yeah.
Well, on that note, I would like we finished the round of questions that I had for you. But we do have some rapid fire. If your time permits, do you think we can ask you? All right. So, quickly, one word your team would use to describe you that you secretly agree with.
One word the team would like to describe me.
Well, yes, your team will use to describe you, and you agree with it as well, secretly.
They love me.
Okay. All right. One word your CEO would use to describe you. I mean, in this context, probably the owner.
Has his own mind. He has his own mind.
Okay. The most overused word in board meetings. The most overused word or phrase in board meetings.
Both?
In board meetings.
We need to do this.
We need to do this. All right.
We need to do this.
The phrase you have used most as a CFO.
Solutions to be executed on ground.
Okay.
I'm sure you would have guessed that.
Yes. A decision you're known for making quickly.
Yeah. I'm very known for making decisions quick.
Any particular area or specifically anything to do with, or just in general?
I'm known for that he's a taskmaster. He will go any way to get results. In the process, he might bypass processes, etc. But he's a hardcore taskmaster. Yeah, to get the results.
One finance task you secretly dislike.
What part of finance I dislike?
One finance task, yeah.
If you ask me to do the accounting entries, go back 25 years back to do the accounting entry myself. I
Okay,
respect, but
accounting.
you ask me what you don't like that. Yeah.
The metric that gets too much attention.
Metrics which gives too much attention.
Yeah, that gets too much attention.
Cash flow has to be
Cash flow. Okay, the
rightly
metric
so.
that doesn't the metric that doesn't get enough attention.
Patience. I mean, I'm using the patience because at times the patience gets out from the
Okay,
CFOs.
fair.
People's expectations from the CFOs are to get everything like this. Doesn't happen that way.
Okay. The question that you get asked, which has no simple answer.
Can I get this done now?
Okay. I think that's a common question everyone gets asked. A good now this is a fill in the blank format, a quick one. A good CFO is someone who dash. What would you say?
Who understand businesses well?
Okay. I always double check dash.
I always double check the figures myself.
Okay. The hardest part of my role is
Uh, mm, Hardest part of my job is to get things done, either from the top or from the team and from myself also. Yeah.
okay. Every finance team must stop doing X, whatever that X is.
Unnecessary workings without knowing what is the end result, why we're doing that working. Too much of working, Excel working, this without knowing what is required. So essentially working without knowing what is the end objective of that working.
All right. This is a bit about judgment and experience. So the hardest call a CFO has to make.
How to convince the board when the time's off.
Okay. One thing a spreadsheet cannot tell you.
One thing,
One thing a spreadsheet cannot tell you.
the human part, the human part of those workings. Yeah.
What exactly do you mean by that? Human part?
For example, I might give you a P&L. It might show a loss, but the reason could be various. It might show financial reasons, but there could be various reasons. Someone might have left the organization. There could have been a management change. So a simple loss doesn't mean it's loss. You need to understand. Yeah.
All right. So a finance trend that is kind of hyped. Do you think
Finance?
that a finance trend that seems to be very overhyped?
Well, nowadays it is too much about getting into the business. CFO should get into the business. It's getting too exaggerated, honestly. So everyone you will hear will always say the same thing. Look, finance business partnering. There are different words which is used. Finance business partnering. Sometimes too much. Yeah.
Okay. This is I would like to know what this is. The best advice you received as a CFO. Now, this may not be an advice, but it could be in passing as well. But something. The best advice you received as a CFO.
Be on the ground and compete with yourself every day.
Okay.
Be on the
Something
ground
you
and compete with
learned.
yourself.
All right. Something you learned too late.
Many of the things which I explained to you, I wish I learned. I told you, I wish I had learned many things. I would have saved decades for myself. I didn't. I couldn't. Many of the things which I mentioned to you. I said that in my mentoring session, I told the people who are in the age group of late 25 or early 30s, or even touching 40s, wish you learned what took me time to learn. So yeah, that's a regret.
What energizes you at work?
I'm a runner. I go for running every day. Right.
And at work? At work?
Yeah, it helps in the work. I go for running every day
All right.
for 70 minutes, gives me positive energies. And as I said, I do it because you have to do it. If someone says good, fine. Someone doesn't say good, is fine. But I'm on the learning path, so I'm ready to change. I'm ready to improve. And that's where I keep saying competing with yourself. So like in today, I've picked up something from you as well in talking. So I'm happy to implement. I'm happy to change.
I would love to know what that is.
After that call.
Yes. One myth about CFOs you would like to break.
One myth.
Yeah.
We are too busy. We're not, but we always claim we're too busy.
Okay. One thing you would change about how finance is viewed.
Finance is a big function. It really adds value to it. Give the weightage, give the importance which it deserves. It's not a thankless profession. Unfortunately, people are learning, but still, because we don't bring
Advice,
sales. We don't bring sales, so that's it.
one advice to a first-time CFO in one line, if possible.
Don't think too much. Use your head and heart. Take life as it comes through. That's it.
Okay. The most underrated skill in finance leadership.
The most underrated skill is the team goes into details. Many people don't appreciate the output which they see. A lot of efforts go into that.
All right. So one last thing, which I think you've already answered in some way, and I think I know the answer, but one sentence that defines your CFO philosophy.
I said two-way. It's a two-way answer. Compete with yourself. Use your head and heart. And again, I have to repeat. Maybe you're tired of hearing that, but that's how it is.
Executable solution.
Execute solution on ground for any business. That's it.
All right. All right. On that note, we are done. Thank you so much for your time, Anand. It was really a pleasure talking to you. Yeah. Thank you so much, Anand, and we'll keep you updated. Yeah.
Thank you. Take care. Thanks.
See you. Bye.